is going to look at anyone with that idea and with that little curl in the lip say, been there, done that. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to wage 2, 4, 6 years of intense struggle like it was in the 1930s to come up with something that has a built-in self-destruct button. It's preposterous. It's not going to work. And if you do it, if the liberal left does that, imposes another set of regulations along the lines of Paul Krugman and the others, not only are you going to have the same history, but you're going to have the same history faster. And let me tell you why. Large numbers of workers are not going to go for this. They're not going to be the enthusiasts of this regulation program precisely for the reasons I've just told you. Been there, done that. But worse, the right wing in America, the business community, has spent the last 50 years perfecting every technique there is known to turn the population against regulation as its enemy. And they're going to go right to work doing again what they have now learned to do, and they'll do it better and they'll do it faster. They're experts at it. So to set up another regime of regulation is to set up something that is going to be real easy to knock down. Therefore, what do we do? I have a proposal to make, as you might have guessed by now. Here's the proposal. Let's regulate, by all means. Let's really try to make a reasonable economic system that doesn't allow people the grotesque abuses that I've described to you here, plus the many more that you know about from the newspapers that I don't go over. But let's not have the self-destruct button in it. This time the change has to include the following. The people in every enterprise who do the work of that enterprise will become collectively their own board of directors. For the first time in American history, we will make the people who depend on the survival of those regulations, whose quality of life, whose chances for a future depend on a society not allowing this to happen again, will be in the position of having those resources and making sure that is the profits of their own work, make sure that those are not utilized by some board of directors elected by and responsible to shareholders doing what we know they'll do because we've seen them do it in the last 50 years. Now let me conclude by packaging what I just said, which might come as a bit of a shock to some of you, in the language that makes it easier for Americans to digest. Okay, here we go. This proposal democratizes the enterprise. That must be good, right? I use democracy. It must be good. It must be. Everybody believes in that, like motherhood and apple pie. It democratizes. In what sense? Well, it says that the people who work in an enterprise, kind of the front line of those who have to live with what it does, where it goes, how it uses its wealth, they should be the people who have influence over the decisions. So let's do that. That's democracy. Maybe we could even extend this argument. We could say that the democracy in our political life, which, leaves a little to be desired, some people call it a formal democracy that isn't real. Maybe the problem has been all along that you can't have a real democracy politically if you don't have a real democracy economically underpinning it. If the workers are not in charge of their own lives 5 days a week, 9 to 5, the basic time of their life, and how much aptitude and how much of an appetite are they going to have to control the political life when they're not too exhausted on a Saturday to go to a meeting? Maybe we need the democracy of economics, not just to prevent regulations from being undone, but also in order to realize the political goals of a democracy. Another way to put this, if workers were to be their own collective board of directors, then a job description would be different. And I thought I'd conclude with an example, one that I use a lot, which I owe to a graduate student named Kenny Levin, who wrote this dissertation for Steve and me. It goes like this, and it's based on many companies in the Silicon Valley in California, that strip between San Francisco and San Jose. Every year, engineers quit their jobs in big companies like Oracle Systems or IBM or those others. They quit their job, and they hate the job. They hate the job because some idiot supervisor tells them what to do. These are software engineers. They have to come to work in a tie and a jacket, which they hate. They have to go and sit in a stuffy office. They don't want to do any of that. They say it stifles their creativity, and above all, it makes them very unhappy. They want to go and live and work differently. So they quit their job. And together with other people who feel the same way, they each carry their little laptop to Harry's garage. Harry's wonderful. Harry's garage. And there they arrive with Bermuda shorts on, with a Hawaiian shirt, with a Frisbee, a dog, and with enough marijuana to get through the day. Okay? And they have a really good time. They like their job. They enjoy their colleagues. Monday through Thursday they work the way they always did, making software programs. On Friday, they don't. They come to work with Frisbee, with dog, a whole bit, lots of dog. But on that Friday, they sit around and they decide what to do with the profits they make, what technology to develop. They function as their own collective board of directors. And what Kenny Levin discovered was, when you talk to these people, because they're talked to, when you write books about these people, and books have been written, these people say, I'm much happier than I've ever been. I'm much more productive than I've ever been. And then they point out with great pride that most of the great breakthroughs in computer technology and telecommunications achieved over the last 50 years have been achieved by firms like that. What kind of firms would that be? Karl Marx called those firms communist, which means that the great breakthroughs of technology of the last 50 years that have been claimed by capitalism, that's a mistake. They were the achievements of communism. They were achievements of people who walked away from their job in a capitalist enterprise and voted with their feet to organize an enterprise completely differently, namely an enterprise in which the workers were their own collective board of directors. So the story I'm describing to you, the proposition I'm making to you, is not only a way to cope with this crisis in such a manner as will not repeat the sad story of regulation that undoes itself. It's also a story of something that workers in America have already been doing. That they're not conscious that it's communist, that's cute. That's a kind of reflection on their education. That these people are not only not communists, but most of these engineers are members of the Republican Party, that's understandable. It's America. They define what they did as, ready? Innovative entrepreneurship. Okay, you could call it a yellow banana. I don't care. What's important here is how they change things. That is, the solution to this problem requires, to conclude, that the socialist proposal not be understood anymore, as it so often is in America, as having something to do with what the government is going to do or not do. That the socialism I'm talking about begins and focuses at the bottom on the kind of radical reorganization of production that's long overdue anyway in our society, simply on the grounds of democracy, but is now a viable opposition, because a movement that said this to the American people as they struggle with their fear and apprehension about where this is going, is a movement that could get a response that would make socialism come out of the margins of our culture and enter the middle. I've been giving this talk for the last 5 weeks in 1,000 places. I've gotten more invitations to do this and more response in the last 5 weeks than in the previous 25 years of my life. Something is going on, and the openness to this kind of political response to a very serious crisis is a sign of possibility and hope that I hope many of you think about. Thank you.